I'm Esther Dillard on the Black Information Network, chatting with writers and authors who offer an added perspective for our listeners. This is The Color Between the Lines. In this edition of The Color Between the Lines, we're talking about a book that is talking about how Black women heal and how women of color heal. It's called Healing Our Way Home, Black Buddhist Teachings on Ancestors, Joy, and Liberation. And here to talk about it is one of the three authors, and her name is Dr. Marisela B. Gomez. Welcome, Dr. Gomez, to the BIN.
Thank you, Esther. Thanks for having me.
Well, this book caught my attention because it was connecting Black folks to Buddhism, which you don't often see, and it's something that's not talked about a lot. And then three women who are Black women who are practicing Buddhists working on a book together, I thought was quite unique. So I'm so glad that you're able to talk to me a little bit about this. First of all, I wonder, did you find in many ways that you three were kind of like unicorns in the practice of Buddhism? How did you find each other?
That's funny. It's not funny actually at all. So within our tradition, in Buddhism, like Christianity, there's different traditions. In Christianity, there's Catholicism and like that baptism. Baptist and Protestant. So in Buddhism, it's very similar. There's different traditions. So within our tradition, which is the Plum Village community of engaged Buddhism, all three of us are practitioners and teachers in that tradition. And so within that tradition, yes, there's not a whole bunch of Black teachers in the tradition. So I've never heard us being called unicorn within that context, but when you said it, I'm like, yeah, it's true.
Well, the book is called Healing Our Way Home, and it includes Black Buddhist teachings on ancestors. I love the way that's connected to ancestors, because you often think within the African diaspora about, African tradition and such, and then connecting it to Buddhism was kind of a different thing, for a different way of looking at things. And for those who are generally Christians, how do they connect all these three things together in this book?
Yeah. So, I grew up Catholic, and all three of us, didn't start as Buddhists, right? We're what they call convert Buddhists. And yet, ancestors, was so integral to all of our traditions, and liberation. I mean, I don't know if we can talk about Blackness without talking about liberation, actually. Ancestors and joy, right? Like, this whole explosion of the importance of Black joy. This is something that we bring from our, I think, not just maybe our historical religious tradition, but from just our culture, right?
For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Esther Dillard with the Black Information Network, talking with Dr. Marisela Gomez about her book that she's written with two other women called Healing Our Way Home. I noticed in the book there were a lot of sections where people can kind of write their own thoughts and kind of like a meditation of sorts, as well as music lists and recipes. Why did you all kind of include these sections like this?
Yeah, so this book is a there's some difficulties and traumas and suffering in this book, right? Because we're talking about our journey of healing, and so it's about healing this stuff that we've been living with, and it can look different for each one of us, and so in the process of healing, we have to really cultivate joy and spaciousness to hold the suffering. If we don't have a real foundation of the ability to hold it, we can't take care of the suffering. We can't look at it. That's why we all run away from our suffering, and we we consume stuff, or we call somebody, or we turn the TV on, or we eat, or we drink, or whatever we do, because we don't have the spaciousness and enough joy to look into the hard stuff, so we run away from it. And so that's why joy is in the title as well. And so the music is to really help people cultivate, like hold that spaciousness. The journaling is to invite in some reflection and to try not to just read through the book to finish it, but really heal with the book. Let the book be this way of seeing where some of the things we discuss, maybe the stuff that the reader's holding as well as something they want to transform. Um, and what we learn in our practice is that being able to really sink in to reflection, to be able to really pause, take some deep breaths in, and just situate your body in this time and this space. Not stay in the head, not stay heady. We all like to stay in the head, but really come into our body, notice what's going on in our body, what's showing up, what needs to be tended to and taken care of. So all the practices in there, the pauses at the end of each chapter, and a practice that's offered, either a meditation or a practice to help us ground ourselves and reflect. Because it's a healing book. It's a conversation about healing and how each one of us have found ways to heal ourselves. And everything that's offered in the book, especially the practices, are things that we practice regularly over the last 15, 20, 30 years. We've been doing this collectively. We've been practicing for some good, between the three of us, more than 60 years of practice. And so we want to share what we have found to be helpful, to be help us get free from the things that really keep holding our hearts tight and making us unable to open to really everything that's possible in ourselves. The most true authentic selves that we all know we have sometimes is really locked down because of our traumas, or locked down because of not even our trauma but our ancestors' trauma. And so we want people to be able to find ways to free themselves and find that spaciousness. We're not trying to free anybody. Everyone's got to free themselves. And the practices and the words are offering, hey, this was our journey. This is how we did it. Is there some similarity for you? Does this touch you? Do you think you might like to do it this way or that way? And so the large number of practices, the recipes are fun. Like we all put stuff in there that we like to eat, and mixing them together, and joy, right? And also, people come around together around food. It really brings people together. I think it's not just, Black culture, but certainly finding ways to enjoy a meal and being together in silence before we eat, to acknowledge the food and the earth and the people's hands that went to prepare it. It's also a very, I think, deep tradition that we all come out of. So, yeah, it's mindfully eating is something that we practice as well. So it felt right to enjoy everything in there. And before I forget, I want to mention the co-authors' names, Valerie Brown and Kari Jo Lingo, who are also the other two authors on the book.
I guess I'll let you finish up with the final word about, healing with many folks, and regardless of your ethnic background, is something that sometimes a process that is not easy, and I think that, what do you think that when you three got together, found collectively, made for that process being an easier one?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because we are friends already, and we understand this connection that we have. So just coming together as Black people, right? That's already healing. You know what I mean? Like when you come together and you're like, you can put down some of the armor that
Yeah.
we have in the world. So, and then we love each other because we've known each other for years, and we know some of our history. I think that held it, that could hold what came up. What came up, and some of the healing that happened. So we healed just in doing this book together. So things came up for each of us that hadn't come up in that way before. And so we were talking about our healing journey, and in the process of talking about it with these three people who love each other, we're in the process of healing as well. And I think we've heard comments from people that it's almost a new genre of writing, because it's very active. It's like listening in on three people talking with each other. And we're not just talking to talk's sake, we're talking about healing and how we did it. And so I think what could hold it was this deep friendship. In Buddhism, one of the deep teachings of Buddhism is that one of the Buddha's disciples asked him one day if spiritual friendship was a big part or half of the path of liberation, and the Buddha told him, don't say that, because it's wrong. Spiritual friendship is all of the path of liberation. It's the entire path. And so I think this book really epitomizes and really lives into that teaching, because the healing that has come out of us being together in this way as spiritual friends was big for each of us. Each of us testified to going deeper and revealing and transforming something that's been a real suffering for us.
Is there any other websites that, if they're interested in getting more information about Buddhism and connection to others who are African American or of the African diaspora, making that connection, is there anything that they can go to?
As you said, any place you buy books, it's there. And then if you want to get more specific and learn a little more about the tradition and the way we may be practicing it, you can go to the publisher's website, which is Parallax. That's a publisher, Parallax. And there it'll open up a different or more types of books similar in Buddhism. And if you're interested in mindfulness, right, you can practice mindfulness without being Buddhist. You don't have to, many Christians come to our retreats and learn about mindfulness and practices that help to heal and take it back to their tradition. So one doesn't have to become a Buddhist. And we've been saying, don't get caught up in the Buddhist word. It's just a label that gives respect to the tradition that we are practicing in, and we want to honor the tradition. But we say, don't get caught up in Buddhist and think you got to be Buddhist to practice like this or read this, because it would be sad if that happened, because you can practice every one of these things offered in here, you can practice without being a Buddhist.
Well, thank you, Dr. Marisela Gomez, for joining us on the BIM.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the book is called Healing Our Way Home, Black Buddhist Teachings on Ancestors' Joy and Liberation. I'm Esther Dillard on the Black Information Network.